Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of The Monsters Den. It's Thursday night, our second episode of the evening. Hope you guys enjoyed the Monarch review, Legacy of Monsters, that just aired a little while ago. Today, for this episode, though, we've got the full crew together for a discussion of 4K films that you should be wanting to add to your collection should you decide to go the 4K route. Let me introduce everybody here. We got Davy Gallagher in the house.
Well, don't forget
Jamie
Davey.
Laszlo is here. Dan Brown is here. Craig Kaminski's here, and the king himself, Chris Allo, is in the house, sporting that lovely looking Black Sabbath battle jacket in the background. Gotta love that. That's like a regular fixture there lately, right? It's
Yeah, because I don't feel like making my bed, so.
There you go. All right, so as we've hinted at prior to this episode, the reason why we're doing this whole kind of 4K 101 is because one of our colleagues here, Mr. Craig Kaminski, has finally made the upgrade and finally taken our prodding after all these months to go ahead and get himself a 4K player to match his 4K TV. And when you do that, well, you got to start buying 4K discs. So Craig has been asking us over the last month or so for recommendations on some films to get, which ones we think are the best ones to get. And he's been picking out some of his favorite films and getting those on 4K. And he's got a nice little stack that he just got. So we were going back and forth on Facebook, talking about all this stuff. And I was like, wait a second. Why don't we just do an episode on this? Because I'm sure that Craig is not the only person in the world, and especially who watches the Monsters Den, who is either thinking of or just made the move to 4K. And what we've done today is we've each picked out 5 discs or 5 sets that we feel are a great way for the 4K newbie to enter the world of 4K and replace those old DVDs or those old Blu-rays. So why don't we have Craig start us off talking about his journey and how this all started and where he is today with his 4K exploration.
Okay, thanks. And so I'll turn back the clock back to 2000-ish or so when I bought my first DVD player. And my first DVD player was a 3-disc changer, which was vertical, actually, not a circular tray. And back then I had some videotapes, and so I went out and I was buying DVDs like crazy for several years. I had to have probably close to like 100 or so at the time, and I was doing this for several years. Finally, it got to the point where I was buying movies and I just wasn't watching them. So I completely just stopped buying them. And I don't know if you guys remember this, but Amazon used to have a feature where you could trade in your DVDs or CDs or things like that. They would give you nothing for them, and it would be in the form of an Amazon credit, but you could at least unload things. So I sold to Amazon a really big chunk of my DVDs. I had kept a handful of some of my favorite movies, but even then, around, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, I sold off a whole bunch of those because I just wasn't watching them. I have a 4K television that I got several years ago, and so I finally went out I bought a Blu-ray, just a regular Blu-ray player, but I didn't want to fall into the same trap that I was doing with DVDs, so I really didn't buy very many Blu-rays. The Blu-rays that I was buying were ones that we would rank on this show. So for example, I went out and bought Trick or Treat and the Terminator set and Phantasm and Chucky and things like that I bought on Blu-ray, but I generally didn't buy all the movies that you guys would always chat about and say, oh, look what just came out. And so I just kind of stayed lulled in the background for that. But finally, a few months ago, it was announced that Conan the Barbarian, one of my all-time favorite movies, was finally at long last coming out on 4K. So this was my impetus to go out and buy a 4K player. So what I did was over Christmas, and this is maybe a good tip for other people too, I actually used credit card points and only paid about $50 for my 4K player during the Christmas shopping season. So if you don't feel like paying hundreds of dollars for a 4K player, look at whatever your particular credit card is and see if you have some sort of reward system built up that you can use towards purchases of other things. I did that, bought my 4K player, and over the last few weeks or so, I've gotten about 20 movies on 4K, and the ones that I've gotten so far are all kind of a good chunk of them are actually ones that I had on DVD years and years ago because they were my favorite movies. So I've gotten a lot of individual movies, but I need to get some sets of things in the future. So, for example, like the Godfather set or the Mad Max 4 movie collection. Those are things that I'd like to get in the future, but I was kind of just focusing on individual movies first. So the first one that I had gotten was actually one that I didn't have on any sort, but I've always loved it, and I'm glad that I got it on 4K. And this one was actually a little bit harder to find. I got this on eBay. Starting with the RoboCop 4K through Arrow. And what I like about this is what I've noticed off the bat is this is just a one disc collection. And so everything is on, all the special features are on the 4K, unlike some of these other ones where the special features might be on the Blu-ray disc and the 4K disc might just have the movie and maybe something smaller. Everything is packed into this one disc on here. The movie looks spectacular, and it is the unrated director's version. And I checked that right away by going into the beginning to watch where the Ed 209 shoots the living shit out of the poor executive in the office to make sure that it was the director's cut. And yes, God damn it was. I was more than happy to see that. So the movie looks spectacular in 4K, and one thing I was really happy to see was that sometimes when watching RoboCop on cable or something, sometimes a few of the scenes look a little wonky, like with Ed 209 and with some of the backgrounds that are used. They didn't look right. I think it looks great on here, and it's obviously one of my more favorite movies from back from 1987, and there is some pretty cool special features on this, and I watched some of them, not all of them, but they had some recent interviews with Nancy Allen and with the writers of the movie, and there's some featurettes on the special effects and whatnot. This is in this has a Dolby Atmos soundtrack. I have a Dolby Atmos soundbar, so it sounds great in that blasting through my living room. So I'm really happy to have RoboCop as one of the first in my collection. Should I do one more?
Yep.
Okay. Second one here is not, again, one of my favorite movies, and it's not exactly one
Can
of.
you guys tell how excited he is to talk about this?
Yeah.
Look at this guy.
Not exactly one of
I
the
haven't
most.
seen him this excited since he fucking hit the jackpot in Atlantic City.
That's
Just don't tell me Mr. Limited
He
Edition
just,
box
he
set
just
for
printed on
Robocop.
4Ks. So there you go.
well, this one is also this is also this is a one discer too, so maybe that's why I'm extra excited. But not exactly necessarily high art, but it's always been one of my favorite movies that I saw at the pictures when I was 8 years old with my dad and my brother, and that's Flash Gordon. Again, it's just such campy fun, and it is a really cool action movie, I think. And in 4K, the colors and the costumes on this really pop, especially once you get to Ming's Palace and you have all the reds and golds and all the sky colors when Flash and Princess Aura are flying around in the ship. Everything when they get to Arborea with Prince Baron, the green and the lush swamp really comes through, and so it's great to see in a really super clear film. I had this on DVD in an old click box, so this is definitely a much bigger upgrade, and especially the sound, so you can hear the wonderful soundtrack from Queen in this. So always love this movie. I have a soft spot for it. Has quite a few bonus features in this too. Of some, a lot of it's archival, but there are some new interviews with some of the cast members and some behind the scenes footage of the making of. I kind of wish they would have included. I know it's probably asking a bit much, but that documentary called Life After Flash with Sam Jones that I've seen, that would have been kind of cool to include on here. But I'm sure that can be.
It is on the limited edition, Craig.
Gotten separately, or is it on a limited edition?
It's on the same Arrow limited edition.
But a great movie to add for your collection if you like these. Just a great fun science fiction movie, and that don't take too seriously, and it'll at least for me brings back the memories of seeing this at the pictures when I was young. So Flash Gordon's my second choice.
Just start looking for shelving units right now. Start shopping on Marketplace. We're going to see them growing behind you slowly.
Both of those picks, though, it does show you Arrow released box sets that had features that aren't on the standard edition that diehards are going to want, like that Life After Flash movie. And RoboCop had the other cuts included on the bonus disc, which aren't included on the standard.
Yeah, I think it's just the director's cut on.
Yeah, so like if you want the theatrical cut, for example, that's only on the special edition or limited edition. So it's one of those kind of.
And it's also one of those things. One of those things I'd like to say, at least, and I'll say this now, and hopefully I won't be proven a liar. But the movies that I'm going to try to get, I'm generally going for the regular version of these. I don't want to necessarily get the versions that have posters and postcards and all those things. I'm generally just kind of focused on the movie itself, but that's what I'm saying now. But
that's what you're saying now.
Yeah.
But so you can time
see how bad the curse gets, right?
Yeah. But as of right now, I'm just sticking to standard versions of these films.
You're done. Stick it with a fork. It's over. Over.
Show of hands, who likes the black 4K cases as opposed to the Blu-ray cases?
You can tell apart.
Black looks great.
Yeah, I kind of like the black. Yeah,
they feel like they're more important, I guess, when they're black.
Yeah, it's like the platinum edition.
Fancier.
Yeah.
I like that there's a uniformity, that they all have the little logo here at the top and everything.
Yeah, most of them anyway. Yeah.
I like Mondo Macabro's red boxes. I've always loved
those.
them.
Are kind of cool too. Yeah, I have a few of those. Yeah, those
are Shameless with the yellow boxes, especially for a Giallo. It's really cool to get a yellow box.
Remember them doing that with a lot of the Blu-rays. Yeah.
Cool. All right, Chris, your first two of the day.
Okay, yeah, my first one, just to show the difference in home video quality, is a movie that I actually rented in 1984, I think, and I absolutely hated this movie. I had read about it as a kid in Famous Monsters, and then when I rented the VHS, I hated it. I don't even know if I finished watching it. At the time, I just thought it was a shitty movie, but I was 12. I didn't know anything. I saw the VHS again many years later, and the copy that they used was pan and scanned in, and it was a terrible transfer, so you couldn't see anything. And this is a trash dream for me to have this on 4K, because seeing it on 4K, and Craig came over to my house, I showed it to him. Because it is a terrible movie that I absolutely love, and I cannot believe it's on 4K, and that is The Incredible Melting Man from 1977.
JD's favorite movie.
I feel like that gets mentioned at least once a month on this channel.
I love this fucking movie, man.
Stumbling and dripping.
So bad, but it is so much fun.
Boring.
Listen, it's a little slow in spots, but the star of this movie is Rick Baker's gooey makeup, And I fell in love with this movie only like about maybe like 12 years ago when I saw it in HD on a channel that we used to have here called Monsters HD. And I couldn't believe how it looked and the colors. But now this new 4K version is unbelievable as far as the colors and the level of detail. I mean, there are a lot of shots. I mean, listen, the star of the movie is the guy fucking melting. And now on this new 4K scan, and I believe this was from Vinegar Syndrome, you can see all the detail of the guy's face literally melting and all the shit coming off of his skin. I mean, it's really remarkable that a shitty low budget movie could look this good. And I really love it. Like I said, had I never seen, and I only saw the VHS that I saw in 1984, I'd still be thinking this movie was garbage. And I guess one thing we probably should add, Pete, I meant to mention this earlier, the whole point of getting 4K discs is that the advanced level of quality, because I'm sure there's plenty of people who are going to be like, oh, you know what? I'm happy with streaming, and that's fine. But the argument of quality for both picture and sound, it's night and day between streaming and watching a physical disc that you have at your home.
It's going straight through your player into a TV as opposed to
absolutely
10-foot cord, not through the air, miles and miles.
Yeah. Like I always say, I've said it a few times to people who I was having this argument with, and I'm like, well, okay, whatever your favorite song, do you want to hear it off of a vinyl or a CD, or you want to just play it off the radio? What's better? I mean, it's night and day. To me, and it's a dream having, like you guys, collected the same movie over and over again. Now to finally have a master of a film that's the same quality as you see it in the theater. I mean, Craig and I saw Conan the Barbarian in 4K. I don't even think it was a 4K master. It looked terrible, but I guarantee you that new disc is going to look way better than what we saw in the theater last year. But my other trash masterpiece, this was a movie that was elusive. This was not released on DVD in America or Blu-ray. I had a foreign DVD from England. I love this movie so much, I actually bought my own 35 millimeter film print and ran it at the local theater. But man, that print does not look nearly as good as the 4K of Alligator.
Oh yeah.
What a true trash masterpiece. Again, the level of clarity and color in this thing.
I don't even think it's that trashy. I think
it's written by John Sayles wrote the thing. So yeah.
I mean, I was thinking before, like, oh yeah, this is one of my favorite, Jaws knockoffs. But the more I thought about it, I'm like, it's really, other than an aquatic monster, it's really not even all that similar to Jaws. I mean, it's, I think it's a well done film. Quality wise, this thing looks incredible. It's a triple disc, loaded with special features. I think the rubber alligator looks great, but what blew my mind when I was watching it was the love scene between Robert Forster and Robin Riker, the female lead, who's quite an attractive woman. Hopefully she's not watching this, but the level of detail is so fucking clean on this disc that when there's a close-up of their two faces and they're in bed and they're just about to kiss, like I could see the lady mustache on Robin Riker, the female lead. And I'm like,
that was
I didn't know where he's going.
I'm like, holy shit.
Now he was concerned about why she's not watching. Okay, I got you.
I'm like, wow, look how clean this is. Look at the detail. I'm like, all right, you're freaking me out a little bit because now I don't want to kiss her. But still, man, it was really cool to see that heavy peach fuzz under her lip.
Kissing Groucho Marx or something.
For sure. So get the Alligator triple disc. Again, this one's from Shout Factory.
And you get the TV cut too, the version they played on TV.
Yes.
Excellent point, Jamie, which I love. The TV cut is on here. I believe that I just heard the TV cut is coming out on the new King Kong 4K. I love when they have those alternate versions.
Yeah, it's always good to have.
101 are putting out a box set of Alligator 1 and 2 next month, I think.
Oh, no
Which,
kidding.
mm,
And now, is there like cool different extras, or is it mostly
pretty much the same extras. It's really just to get them in one box. Although Alligator 2 is the kind of trash that you were saying. That's not a good film.
And it even has
No,
Joe
not at
Bologna
all.
in it, so you know it's trash.
Yeah.
And Davey, that's an excellent point that we should mention. As if you are going to start, to Craig's point too, if you are going to start collecting, of course, you want to know, okay, is there a limited edition? Is there a regular edition? Like Davey was saying, but to make it even more complicated, but there's more options than ever before. DVDs and Blu-rays were country coded. So if you wanted to buy, if you were on vacation or you wanted to buy a special edition of a particular film from a different country, unless you had an all-region player, it would not play. 4K discs will play anywhere, although to Pete's point, lots of times there's or Craig's point, there's lots of times there's a Blu-ray with the special features. The Blu-rays are still country coded, but the 4Ks will play anywhere. So you could literally buy a 4K disc from anywhere in the world and play it at your home.
Yeah, absolutely. Good point. All right, Dan, over to you.
All right. Well, I said, just like Craig, I know he's saying he just like, I was the last girl to dance, really. I'm standing in the corner because I had bought, I bought my first 4K box set, which was Dawn of the Dead, only because it was Dawn of the Dead. I'm not even going to talk about Dawn of the Dead. I bought it because of that. Then I realized, okay, no, first I bought it in Blu-ray. And then all of a sudden, when Chris brought it to my attention that, oh no, 4K will play anywhere in the world, I said, oh, there we go. So I bought the 4K box. Now I had 2 boxes and a 4K player. Then I went out and bought one more 4K. Actually, when I bought the 4K player, and that was Angel Heart, and that was it. Had a chance to sit down and watch things, whatever it is, and all of a sudden, it's like everybody's talking about this 4K thing going on, and this, now we're going to do a show, and it's welcome Craig, and in the past, Craig's responsible for me watching the Ginger Dead Man series. Craig is responsible for me like earning enough points on my credit cards right now where I could fly to Shanghai and back, buying stuff to catch up to everybody. But I bought about 40, and I'm like scouring for sales. But let me tell you, 4K, the best way to describe it for me, before I even go into the films, is I've been watching films since there was a box with a pair of rabbit ears and it was a really bad picture. And then you went through the ages of 8mm film, and then you went to Betamax and VHS. But there are films you watch every year. Whether you saw Abbott and Costello Meets Frankenstein on Channel 5 in New York and like a Saturday afternoon, you're going to be watching it maybe 50 years later. I think you watch it every year, Peter. You watch it and become so familiar with everything that goes on to these films that you know every nuance because you'd like to revisit them. Well, all I can sum up with 4K is 4K, no matter how well you know this film and how much you see it, when you pop that 4K disc in, it's like watching this movie for the first time again, but knowing all the dirty little nuances and secrets. You don't have to search. You're just sitting there going like, wow. And that's what 4K is. So that's it. I'm sunk. I'll probably be divorced by the end of the year. I'll be living in a van down by the river with a generator and my 4K collection. But anyhow, the films I decided to pick today, I won a couple of gamuts, and I had to start with Blade Runner, considering that I saw Blade Runner in the theaters when it came out. I remember it had a spotty history on video when it first came out. It was full screen. It was a bit muddy, and so forth. And we're all familiar with the story and with the story of the film. And what happens is that I remember the 4K thing is that 4K gives you twice as much resolution, twice as much depth. That's why it looks like it's 3D, because it actually picks up levels of black and it gives you different shadows. So it gives a 3D effect. But by watching this, the thing that blew me away as I first started watching it is that number one, as you enter to see the Terrell Corporation, which is this huge monolithic pyramid in the middle of the city, which always looked, the only thing exciting was going on in VHS, and even going through the years, was the flames shooting up. What I saw, and I had not taken any drugs, was that as you're watching this pyramid go closer to it, you can see what's going on in the windows. I mean, the windows, there's detail in the windows. There's lights. It's the minute detail. When Leon is first interviewed in the room, everything seemed to have this flat look to it, like in the fog. This way, with the depth and the resolution, you see the fog. It's there, but it's almost like they're in the fog, but they're almost like a 3D element themselves. It does
Oh,
get
the cigarette smoke in that interview.
yeah,
in
everything.
that part
And
too.
you just sit there and you're just aghast. So I'm not going to go any further with this, but this was something I bought on one of those Amazon Prime days. I got it luckily like for $10 a piece, or so. It was some crazy sale. So I figured I'd jump into it. I've had this in many formats, including an attaché case that gave you a car and a friggin', whatever, a piece of James Edward Olmos's toenail, whatever the fuck was it. You got this whole thing, this little suitcase, where I still sit and I open it up and go, this is great. What am I going to do with this? But next film I got, I'm going to go with, and primarily because it was filmed in digital. We're talking about 4K. It's easier to, they're filming in 4K now at 8K in the studios. So it's easy to dumb down to 4 than it is to take something that was a 16 millimeter print and blow it up. This is going to be Train to Busan. And it's not because it is probably, I think, one of the best zombie movies that's come out in the last 15 to 20 years, or at least in the top 10 of action adventure and white knuckle thrills. This is a film that was done on an Arriflex 4K camera. Now, digital photography has been around since the mid 90s, but they really started getting into it hardcore in like 2012, 2011. And if you see the Sony Red up close and personal, these cameras, I mean, they're tiny, they're small. They're like the size of a large video camera back in the 80s, but a lot more sophisticated. But this here, since it was filmed in 4K, I mean, every detail and nuance is there. The film moves at a much more rapid pace. You can see every emotion on everyone's face that's going on in the train. So it just shows what 4K filming in digital transfers to digital, as opposed to this does not, in my opinion, suffer from some of that artifacting or scrubbing that they do to try to put older films onto 4K. But this was my second recommendation. Good film is a zombie film and a great 4K.
Yeah, that is a pretty impressive film, regardless. Because I think I was just looking. I have that. I think I bought it on Blu-ray and not on 4K, but it's even amazing on Blu-ray. So yeah, I can only imagine it looks better on that. So cool, Jamie.
All right. Like Craig, when I started doing the Monsters Den, I owned about 20 DVDs. They were in a garbage bag down in my unfinished basement, just sitting in the corner. And then as I slowly started doing these shows with you, I'm trying to sell the idea of buying all this. So I decided to do the show in my movie room. I should do all the shows in the movie room that we do in the Monsters Den and do the music in the bar. But I wanted to talk real quick about what you watch this stuff on. Because someone might be going, I should look into this. Let's go down to Walmart and get one of them their 4K TVs. Here's the thing. If you spend $600 on a 72-inch TV at Walmart, you're not going to get the same exact experience as if you buy like an OLED and spend a lot more on, a LG OLED like this. I hear the cheaper ones are good for gaming, but if you're going to watch a movie, you may not get the wow factor. So if you want to do it right, just go all in and get a damn nice TV. And you gotta watch movies on, it depends on what TV you get, like cinema or filmmaker mode. Don't put it on standard. Don't put it on vivid. That bleaches out everything. You'll go, oh, but it's too dark. Brighten it up a little bit, but put it on cinema or filmmakers. Don't have smooth on. For crying out loud, turn the smooth off. I go to other people's house and I see they got that smooth on. I look for the remote and I want to turn it off for them. People are like, well, I like what I like. That's fine. I'm telling you my opinion. And you want to have warm all the way up, but everything looks orange. You'll get used to it. Put warm all the way up, put on filmmakers mode and watch this. Now, how do you afford this stuff? Because I ain't rich. This was my strategy. Best Buy is the place for this shit because you get 36 months, same as cash on big things. So you get like 2 years to pay it off. So you go get the TV, spend some money on it, get the TV, put some money down. 36 months paid off. Pay it off. Pay it off maybe a little quicker. When it's paid off, then you get the sound system. Then you get the surround sound. And that, look, in 36 months, now you have the surround sound and you got the TV. Now you're paying off the surround sound slowly. I got 7 speakers and a subwoofer in here and an 82-inch TV. 2 years ago, I was upstairs watching movies on the TV speakers, and I own none of this. So that's important, getting the right equipment. And if you're going to get a Blu-ray player, region-free players are just as much as normal ones. Get a region-free player, and then you can buy like cool things like one of my favorite movies, Beautiful Girls. Region B. I can't find it in Region A. So go ahead and do it. Now, this is what my first disc, I have it broken down to categories. The first one is the one that broke my cherry, because you're always going to remember the one that broke your cherry. The time you went, wow. And that was the 2005 King Kong. So when I bought my TV or my player and TV, you know, you're already charging so much on what's another few bucks here and there, throw in some Blu-rays. And this was when I got it. It was a steelbook. I thought that was pretty cool. And I put it on, and you saw the 1930s New York. And I was like, holy shit, this looks great. Wow. And it's nighttime and it's all golden. And it just blew me away, the whole thing. Now, the thing is, with some of these 4K players, the special effects of the day might show as faults because you're seeing things a lot clearer. You know, back when you had pixels, it blurred everything. And you didn't notice certain things. You didn't see strings in the old movies. You didn't see bad CGI as bad, you know. So the CGI in this movie, you can see the faults in it, but it doesn't bother me that much. It was the one that broke my cherry. So I would recommend it. You know, we could share the same cherry breaking moment if you bought this and watched it for the first time and go, wow. And I actually owned the DVD at the time. And I was like, I'm going to go put the DVD in and see. Maybe it's just the TV. Maybe it's the new TV I got. And I put in the DVD and I said, holy shit, my TV just broke. Something's wrong with this player. Jiggling wires. I put the Blu-ray, the 4K back in, and I went, wow, put the DVD back in. And it was like playing PlayStation 5 compared to Donkey Kong. It totally different experience. Your eyes will get spoiled watching 4K, and you will hate going back to DVDs. It's like listening to CDs and someone's sitting there listening to 8 tracks. And you just, what are you doing? What are you doing?
It's almost worse than that because your TV will try to fill in the gaps. Your player will try to do the, you know, upscale it, and it will fill it in with nonsense. So it's going to look worse than just watching an old
DVD. The nicer the TV you have, the worse the DVD
a DVD is going to look. Yeah.
Yeah, the DVDs look better on cheaper TVs, believe it or not.
Yep.
People are like, I'll just keep my DVDs on my cheap TV. That's cool. But if you want the wow factor, that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to sell you. That was the one that broke my cherry. Now my next category is old. Old as shit. Going back to 1920 with the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari in 4K. And you get the nice little box set. You can get this still for like $30, but I think this box set is out of print with the little book and everything. Now, this movie, I accidentally, before I bought this, I saw this online, Dr. Caligari in 4K. I was like, okay, I didn't read the fine print. It's a 4K scan on a DVD. Whatever the fuck that is. I have no idea what that even means. 4K scan restoration put onto a DVD. I'd never watched it. When I got it and saw it as a DVD, I got pissed because it wasn't cheap. And then I went out and got the box set. But the 4K of this, the restoration they did on it, that's another thing, man. These old movies, you know, watch it on YouTube. You'll see all the specks of dirt. You'll see that. You'll see the jittery movements.
Scratches
And
everything.
they smoothed all that out. They took the dust away. It's like watching it for the first time in 1920, whatever tent they showed it in or whatever. They, I guess there's different prints of the film floating around, and they found like missing frames and put them together to make it smooth. So you don't have it's more smooth moving on everything. And you watch the documentary on the restoration of it and you appreciate it even more. And this movie will never look better than it does right now. So you buy it, you watch it, and then you put it on a shelf. And guess what? You've got cinema history sitting on your shelf that will never look better than what you have right there. And that's another cool thing about it, collecting these movies. I sit here and watch movies around all this history around me. It's film. Not only is it film history, but it's your own history. Like movies you saw with your dad when you were 7, movies you saw with your buddies when you were teenagers drinking beer before you went in, movies you went on first dates with, maybe with your wife. This is like all kinds of tangled web of history around you. And it just feels good to have it around you and you're like, what should I watch tonight? So that's my first two. Did I sell it? Am I selling it?
Hell of a job, Jamie.
As opposed to just having what's available on Amazon Prime or whatever, and you're just Disney and you're just constantly.
That's fine too, because we
scrolling.
stream. We stream as well. I mean, but
to rely
not
only on that, I
this.
guess, not quite the same.
And to Jamie's point, there are people that buy digital copies and have them on some streaming service. I don't know how it works because I've never fucking done it and I never will. But there are stories galore where, because of licensing, people will go to their digital video libraries to look for a movie that they purchased a download of, and wouldn't you know it, they're gone.
They don't send you a copy.
I did it once. I bought a movie once. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest years ago. I spent $9.99 on it. Came out of my bank account. And you spend it, you're spending money, and you're like, I don't feel like I have anything. I feel like I just threw that money out the window.
You own nothing. And to Jamie's point, if you have it on a shelf, it's never going away. You can always grab it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Great.
Good point.
Plus, you can control what you watch.
And when you want to watch.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
It's about controlling what you watch. I hate having the man tell me what I can watch.
Yeah. Davey.
Okay. So I've been on 4K since pretty much launch. 2017. Alien Covenant was the title that it came with. When I bought my player. Which I hate that movie. Hate it. But it's a Ridley Scott film and it looks phenomenal and it sounds great. But I couldn't put it on a show like this, even if it popped my cherry, because the film's crap. I wouldn't recommend it to my worst enemy. It's horrendous. King Kong's a good film. I like the Peter Jackson King. Well, it's far too long, but it's good. It's a really good film. But I couldn't do the same with my first. So I won't go quite with Jamie on that one in terms of picking first, but I will go with them in terms of picking an oldie. And if people haven't picked up already, we're not necessarily doing just horror films or anything. We're kind of doing this as a primer for the whole format. These are the kind of films you should own day one, kind of thing. If you like these films, these are great examples of the format. Dr. Gallagher is the only silent film worldwide that's on 4K at the moment. As Jamie mentioned, there are lots and lots that have 4K scans. One was announced today, The Cat and the Canary from 1927. But it's a 4K scan, but it's not a 4K disc. So always look out for that, because you will see that quite a lot, 4K scan, and people will pick up discs thinking it's a 4K when it's not. So be wary in descriptions, especially. 4K scan does not mean 4K disc.
People are taking notes out there. This is complicated.
Yeah, which again, one reason why the black boxes help. Generally speaking, black box Ultra HD is 4K. There you go. So if you see UHD, that's also 4K, just another term for it. So my first pick, the oldie, 1939's The Wizard of Oz, which first of all, I love that cover. That's just glorious with the black and white and the color. So you get to see the two parts. Obviously, you get to see well, it's not really black and white, it's more sepia, the Kansas set part of the film, and then the ridiculously colorful Oz part. So it's a real great demonstration of both sides of classic Hollywoods in the 1930s. Early color. Color had been around since the 1920s, but they hadn't quite mastered it until the 30s, and this was the one that really, really, really broke into color. And the moment that Dorothy leaves her house and she's in Oz and steps into Munchkinland, explodes into color. And like has been said about showing up some limitations, you can see a lot of things that you might not have on DVD and Blu-ray, for good and bad, because you'll see a lot more painted sets in the background. You'll see the wall of the studio is actually about 5 feet away from them and not a mile in the distance as it looked on a bad DVD 25 years ago, which was a great DVD at the time. But now, flawed. Whereas on this, it shows you the limitations, but it also expands on what's great about the film in the first place and the technical achievements of Victor Fleming and co from the time. Wonderfully, this has got a steelbook edition of Judy Garland, notorious drug addict, unfortunately. The steelbook of this is Dorothy unconscious lying in a poppy field. It's not what you want to project when your lead star died a drug addict, really, surrounded by poppies. That's a bad choice.
A scene I almost forgot when I was rewatching it. I was like, oh, I even forgot that scene exists.
Poppy.
You're gonna put it on the cover.
Poppies. Yeah, it's a strange scene. But yeah, that's the cover of the steelbook, is the poppies scene. I don't get that at all. Going a bit more up to date then, from 2000s, we talk about, or Dan and I have certainly mentioned quite a lot, martial arts films on the channel, and one that really broke through to international audiences in the year 2000 or so was Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. And what a stunning looking film this is. Also, it's a stunning sounding film. It's another aspect of 4K that pushes it beyond Blu-ray. This film and Wuxia films in general, the punches are very important. The sticks hitting together, the noises are very important. It's a rhythm, it's a beat, almost like music. It's a dance. So to get the strikes and the sound of the strikes down as perfectly as they sound on this, it's like Indiana Jones. The punches in Indiana Jones sound a certain way. There's a very specific punch sound for Indiana Jones. Not all films get that right. This is an example of a film that gets all its chops and strikes perfect. So it sounds great. It's got a wonderful soundtrack, but the sound design is immaculate. And it looks stunning as well. There's a lot of wire work in it, and they managed to digitally take it out, and it just looks as though they're floating on air. It's stunning stuff. When Michelle Yeoh is flying around, or Zhang Ji is floating on air, it looks as though they are. So it shows you the uncanny, but it shows you in an almost realistic looking way. So it's even more fantastical because you can't see the strings anymore. You can't see anything like that. So it just kind of emphasizes the bizarre nature of the filmmaking technique, but the wonder of it at the same time. So yeah, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, a wonderful sounding disc as well as a wonderful looking disc.
Probably one to check into. I have never owned that, but I saw it when it first came out and I loved it and haven't thought about it in years. That's probably a glorious looking disc.
Yeah,
They-
stunning.
Did they correct the color situation they had years ago? Remember they made it very garishly colored at one point and it got a lot of flack. That was back on DVD, I believe.
We're going to get into that with one other pick from someone later on, I think. But quite a lot of color correction issues happened when 4Ks came out, because in the 2000s there was this bizarre "let's make everything blue" phenomenon that went on discs.
Oh, no, I was talking about Wizard of Oz. I'm sorry, I thought Wizard of Oz. They had garishly colored it at one point.
No, sorry, I mean in on all sorts of discs, no matter when they came
okay.
from. So all of a sudden there was blue teal added to films that never had blue teal before. So you're now getting color corrected versions that should never have been altered in the first place. So you're getting correct versions on 4K that haven't looked this way since VHS.
Okay. All right, good. Wow. All right.
Cool.
Wizard of Oz on the list.
All right, my first choice is really two sets here, but and I'm gonna go way back for my first choice. So the Universal Classic Monsters Volume 1 and Volume 2. So I have all of these on Blu-ray, and I've always been pretty happy with those. And I vowed that if they ever release these on 4K, I won't really need to go ahead and upgrade. Well, I was convinced otherwise. And I will say they definitely are an upgrade. And if you never thought that you could see these old classic 30s and 40s films, and in the case of The Creature from the 50s, if they could never look better than they did on Blu-ray, well, they do for the most part. I will say, out of all of these films that are on these are all like the main, the real heavy hitters of these series here. I would say The Mummy, Bride of Frankenstein, Dracula, and The Invisible Man, and The Creature from the Black Lagoon are amazing. Most people say The Wolfman looks better on 4K than Blu-ray. I kind of like the Blu-ray a little bit better, and Frankenstein is great on both. And the difference is, I think the Blu-ray of all of these is a little kind of softer, where you get on the 4K, you get a little bit more of that kind of ultra kind of, it's kind of hard to explain. You see more grain in the 4K, but it looks authentic. It's less kind of smoothed out, and all the definition is just a little more clear. The blacks and the grays are pop a little bit more, but and with these sets you get all of the special features that were on the Blu-rays, because they throw the Blu-rays in here as well. So yeah, these are like mandatory if you're into the old Universal horror. Absolutely fantastic stuff there. And they were, I don't know what they're going for now, but they were pretty affordable when they first came out. And then to go all the way forward, I'm going to go to a film from the early 2000s, which I've had for a while. I only just watched last weekend. I think 4K is really great for war films. And Black Hawk Down looks incredible.
Ridley Scott again, yeah.
Ridley, yeah, I mean, where he's going to come up a few times today. This, I had this on DVD. I had this on Blu-ray, and then I upgraded to 4K. This is like leaps and bounds greater than Blu-ray. Really good. And it's got the Dolby Atmos. So like this is one of those war films that you put it on in 4K, and all the different explosions and gunfire and the helicopters just like literally jump out of your speakers. There's lots of gore in this film because it's a pretty, disturbing, heavy hitting war film. And you see all the blood, everything just really, really pops. All the battle scenes are just absolutely incredible. And even like the scenes where they're fighting at night is just because the 4K really brings out the best in like darker scenes. And I think it works really, really well here. And this is loaded. It's got a Blu-ray with all the special features ported over from the Blu-ray. So everything you ever wanted to know about Black Hawk Down is here, and the film has never looked better. And if you're a fan of war films, especially some of the more horrific ones, this is one of the best that I've ever seen in the 4K medium. So definitely don't miss out on it. Back to Craig.
All right, this was the first of my 4Ks that I bought. But before I bought it, I asked Chris, and I had said, well, is this one really that much of a big difference? Is it, on 4K? Is it, picture wise? I mean, because the original, I don't know if they could really do much more with it. And Chris said, yeah, the picture is definitely improved, but wow, it has a Dolby Atmos sound on it, and that it sounds spectacular. And he's not just a pretty face, he's telling the truth, and that is heavy metal on 4K. The music on this, from the opening sequence of hearing Riggs playing Radar Rider, thunders through your room of choice with your subwoofer humming, and just with the wonderful sounds in that. The picture is definitely improved over the original DVD. I mean, or Blu-ray. I mean, I remember when the DVD came out. This was a late comer on DVD, and I remember seeing the ads or something that said, back louder than ever, and for the first time, it had a 5.1 soundtrack on it at the time, but this has a 7.1 Atmos soundtrack on it, and it is wonderful sounding. All the music that we all love from the soundtrack, and the special effects. What really comes across picture-wise, at least in my opinion, are some of the darker scenes or scenes that are in space. The B-17 segment, where the World War II airplane is flying, and the crew members are zombies, looks spectacular in 4K, as well as the next segment called So Beautiful, So Dangerous, with the robot sex that's in that, and where the voice of Harold Ramis is the alien pilot of the ship. Those while they're playing Don Felder's All of You, going through that, and the space scenes really comes through beautifully in 4K. And as I said, the music at the end of the Tarna sequence, "To the council chambers," and then you hear Black Sabbath's Mob Rules come on. Thunderous, love it. And always loved heavy metal. And it's still one of those movies where when this came out in '81, and I wasn't allowed to go see this in the movies because it was R-rated. It was an R-rated cartoon. My brother and I wanted to see this so bad.
Young.
And our parents wouldn't let us take us this. So even to this day, almost every time I watch this, I feel almost like it's something I'm not allowed to watch, even though it's obviously I'm plenty old enough to see this. But it's such a joy to be able to have this on this great system, and be able to enjoy it now as I'm older. And plus, I used a gift card on this, paid $3 and change for it. So it was that makes
Bargain,
it all
man. What a
nice.
bargain.
So yeah, heavy metal is my next choice. My second to last, it's like, hey, this is Monsters Den. We got to pick some horror movies. So one of my favorites that I had to get on 4K is Halloween. This is a 4K, and then it has two Blu-rays in addition to that. The 4K boasts again an Atmos soundtrack, which sounds wonderful. With this, the picture quality is so nice and clear, and everything. No complaints about that at all. And what's really kind of cool, I didn't understand this when I read it at first, but the third disc, the Blu-ray, it said original color timing presentation. And it's like, what is that? I don't know what that is. So I popped it in and looked, and then I actually took a picture of that, and then popped in the Blu-ray and took a picture of. I timed it to have the same segment, and the original color timing is a lot more greener, at least in some of the parts that I saw where they were outside, and where the girls were walking along, and things that I had read. It said, well, the original color timing makes it look like springtime in Pasadena, not autumn in Haddonfield, as it's supposed to look. So they kind of corrected that for the 4K to try and make it look as autumn-like as possible, even though you can still see in the background that there's palm trees in some of the scenes while they're walking down the streets, and all the I'm sure we've all seen it, and people out there too, some of the behind the scenes stories of this that said the dead leaves that are there, they had to pick them up every day because there were no dead leaves, autumn leaves at the time in California where this was filmed, or even finding pumpkins was a bit difficult at the time when they were
Should have
filming.
thought of that ahead of time, right?
Yeah. but looks wonderful on 4K. I actually did have this on DVD, and this is definitely an improvement, and sound-wise as well. There's even, and I never saw some of the bonus features. I just watched them recently, like the extra scenes from the TV version. I had never seen that before. So that was pretty cool to see some of the scenes with Donald Pleasance where he's speaking with some of the doctors from the institution about why Michael Myers should not be released early. And so yeah, that was cool. Even though I've seen this movie so many times, but it was cool to see those extra little scenes thrown in. So yeah, Halloween is a wise purchase for you horror fans to get, and it's a definite upgrade over whatever system you had it on it previously.
How many folks here on the panel have purchased Halloween at least 5 times in 5 different formats over the years?
I have
In about 5 formats, but definitely 5 times.
I still have the Anchor Bay with the lenticular cover on the front. It's, and I don't want to get rid of it because it's like kind of sentimental. I like it.
I always remember the 35th anniversary Blu-ray had a commentary with Curtis and Carpenter where they were getting on really well, and then the 40th had a new commentary by them again, and they did not seem to like each other anymore. It's quite bizarre.
Yeah, this one does it says, I mean, I don't know when it was filmed, but it says audio commentary with Carpenter and Jamie Lee Curtis.
So that'll be the one from the 40th, because the 35th had Deborah Hill in it as well.
Yeah, and it also has a commentary with Dean Cundy, Tommy Lee Wallace, and Nick Castle on that.
Hey, Chris is counting.
How many versions? Yeah.
I have 6 formats. I have VHS, Laserdisc, DVD, Blu-ray, 4K, and I have a 35 millimeter film print of Halloween.
Wow.
So, and I have multiple Blu-rays. I have both 4Ks. So yeah.
You got it all covered.
He's got the full house.
You're going to need a garage to house all your copies of Halloween and Mob Rules, my friend.
Crazy.
I must admit, I was quite happy that Scream Factory released them standalone, because I didn't need to buy that fucking horrendous era with H2O and Resurrection.
Yeah, I hear it. That was a good point.
And I thought, and I always still think Nancy Loomis looks hot in this. Her friend, not PJ Souls is hot too, but I always thought Nancy Loomis looked hot in this too, and she turns up in The Fog looking hot too.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Chris, over to you.
All right, mine is another one that I've owned on multiple formats. And it's certainly one of the most colorful horror movies ever made. And the colors really, really pop on 4K. And it's Dario Argento's Suspiria from 1977. I mean, man, the colors on this are just unfucking believable. The detail is crazy. I mean, all the stitching and the costumes. Like, every time I watch it, I'm like, Jesus. You could see the texture on the fuzzy 70s wallpaper. And I'm like, oh, it brings me back to when I used to rub my fingers on it at my grandmother's house when she had the fuzzy 70s wallpaper. I mean, it looks just unbelievable. And also they went back and they redid the sound from the original tracks to do a new Dolby Atmos track. And I got to say, this is the most scared I ever was watching a disc. I watched it by myself, of course, with the lights off, the sound cranked, and a couple times I kind of forgot about I mean, I love the score from Goblin, but there's a bunch of times when there's the percussion instruments just out of nowhere, just bang. And I mean, I remember jumping out of my seat. I was like, I actually started laughing afterwards. I'm like, this is ridiculous, but it was so much fun. So yeah, this is another disc I would highly, highly recommend. And this one is not my typical movie. In fact, I had no interest in seeing it in the theater. My wife wanted to see this. I think it was last summer or maybe the summer before. And it's a sequel to a movie I only ever saw once. So afterwards, I had to ask her a bunch of stuff when it was normally the other way around, because I didn't know anything about the original, because I forgot all about it. But I really enjoyed the movie, and more importantly, the picture and the sound quality on the disc is considered reference quality. I mean, it is just simply astounding. I think it's the best Dolby Atmos soundtrack I've ever heard, and it's Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah.
I mean, the level of clarity on the film is just mind blowing. And man, the soundtrack, I did install last year. I got a new Dolby Atmos receiver. I installed new Dolby Atmos speakers. And man, you know, those overhead shots of when the jets are whizzing by and shooting rockets, it's unbelievable. So not my favorite movie, but a movie I really enjoyed. And yeah, if I'm going to give somebody like a quick demo in my home theater of what 4K looks and sounds like, it'll be a quick scene from Top Gun Maverick.
I've got that here. I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, I mean, it looks and sounds fantastic. And, you know, it was a movie that I had zero interest in. The only reason I went was the wife wanted me to go. Or she wanted to see it, and she didn't want to go alone, of course. So I went. It was fun. I mean, to me, it's totally Star Wars. You know, they're trying to, you know, blow up the Death Star, you know, by shooting this little tiny thing that's 2 meters wide with a rocket. I'm like, that's fucking Star Wars. But yeah, the disc is phenomenal.
Is there a volleyball scene in the in this or no?
It's not volleyball this time. It's football, but they're all shirtless and oiled up and wrestling around. It's a little homoerotic, but you know, now there's a couple ladies on the field too. So
yeah, and it's not as much. It's not as cynical. I mean, I thought it was just going to be a straight remake, and it's actually got a lot of heart.
It does. It certainly does.
Oiled up shirtless men. Come on.
No, I mean, it's not. I thought it was going to be just like that, just a music video, which is basically what the first one is, isn't it? Just one long music video, but it's got a lot of heart. And I think Tom Cruise, he's probably the number one actor that I have no interest in, but then whenever I watch any of his films, they're always enjoyable. I love the Mission Impossible films.
He creeps me out.
Puts passion into what he does.
And yeah, I never look forward to a Tom Cruise film because I don't like Tom Cruise, but then he's bloody enjoyable whenever he does a film.
Then like Minority Report is great, you know.
That's why, honestly, I've never seen Top Gun in its entirety. So I just don't like him. But I agree with Davey. It's like there's something when he makes certain movies, it's like it's got to be good. You know, as demented as it's got to be good.
Unless he's attempting to play Jack Reacher, then it's
and mind you, Top Gun was the first VHS tape to be released as a sell-through line. Which was like $30 at that time, and it was the first one to contain a commercial before. Yep, I'm waiting years to tell that story. Thank you.
All right, Dan, you're up.
Okay, well, I decided to revisit the past, the far past. So like I said, the whole thing with this show here was being introduced to 4K and the marvels of it. And like I said, I wanted to grasp things from different eras and different, you know, styles. And so it's all over the place. And of course, like Train to Busan was the digital one. And I've seen The Wolfman, which I kind of liked in Universal. That's the only one I've sat through so far, but it's not The Wolfman. I decided to go back to like one of the greatest films of all time, Casablanca.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I like this film, although I've seen it on VHS. I just love this film. It's just a massive, in some respects, something being written off as a B film. It became a B film. It became an A film over time. And it's just well crafted. The chemistry between the actors, you need to go no further on this. It actually was a great booster during World War II. But this transfer of this film, it's like Humphrey Bogart, you are sitting in Rick's. It is that detailed. It is that clear. It's that crisp. And when this first went on, I have to admit, when I put this on, the first thing when I saw Humphrey Bogart sitting there in Rick's Cafe, my jaw dropped. It's like I'd never seen it so good. So I'm not going to go any further into this because it goes without saying that the Warner Brothers tends to, well, this is one of their like money makers, as is Enter the Dragon. This is part of their. These to Warner Brothers are like Universal Monsters and Abbott and Costello are to their portfolio as far as cash cows. But this, they put a lot of reverence in it, I thought for my, blind old ass, it looked damn good. And I would comment, if you're not into classic film and you want to see what it's all about, how it was made, this is a film that you should have if you're a classic film collector. And I agree with Jamie says. It's a history, you could have a history of cinema, okay? You could also be a reminder to yourself, how much money have I spent on this shit in my lifetime? I should have bought Amazon stock. No. But then I'd be getting free copies through the mail because I'd be a stockholder. But other than that, great film, classic. Once again, certain companies, they take top-notch care when they try to restore them. Once again, going back into the past, a film that I did not see until after it came out, almost a year. When it came out, I was not even in the country. Okay. And this was before social media. And people would write me letters. I was in the military, and people would write me letters and say, "Oh my God, we're at the theaters, and there's people around the block, and and this, and we're afraid to go in the water." And I go, "What are you talking about? Is it Jaws? What has it been, a dentist or a surgeon? What are you talking about?" So I finally went and saw it, and I fell in love with this film, and that is Jaws. You cannot, the best way, once again, we all know the story, okay? Just like Quint, you all know what I do. Whatever it may be, scratching my fingernails on the blackboard. But this thing here, from watching you meet Mary Hamilton, first off, the girl swimming in the beginning in the sound, you see the water reflecting off the tops of the waves in the water. You see her wet skin. When you see Mary Hamilton, the first time you see him, he has a jacket on, and you don't realize the jacket is like you're a used car salesman on an island, because it's got anchors. I never noticed that on his jacket. And you can see every anchor. And it's like, God, he looks so tacky. He looks so fucking sleazy. It's great. And then even when Roy Scheider is walking through the town, it has this depth to it. You could see the shingles on the house. You could see everything just has this amazing color and sound, of course. And of course, you meet Quint, that's it, game over. The action sequences, I don't care if Jaws, Bruce, they had problems with him. He looks splendid in this film. They did a real top-notch job with this. This is the 40th anniversary one. It does come with a booklet in there and so forth. And it's interesting. I bought this once before when I first laid claim to do it on the show, and I started watching it. Once again, my jaw dropped, literally, and it froze up. And it's one of the few handfuls, the first one I had, of discs that it actually was defective. I was like, what happened? These things aren't supposed to break. But a percentage, hey, Amazon sent the one back, they sent the other one, whatever, all good. Definitely a recommendation. Just touching upon something what Chris said before, we're talking about 4K and how the 4K player can play anywhere in the world. You have to realize that back in the days of VHS, when you wanted to watch a film that came from England, video nasty at that point, you want something from Greece or something, you had to go out and buy a multi-system television, which was nothing more than a 19-inch box TV. You had to buy a multi-system VCR, which you could probably have out of your pocket at that time over $1,500 to have those two units. And then to buy a PAL tape, or at that point, it would run $60 to $100 to ship it over. And then sometimes in the antiquated days, even the multi-system televisions didn't play it properly. So it's amazing how you can get a 4K you can get a 4K player for a decent price. You buy the television, and if you need, and you have the universal usage, you buy a Blu-ray player, you can watch everything a multi-region Blu-ray player, you're set. You can watch anything. And it's still a fraction of what you would have paid years ago. With the prices of discs right now, it's even cheaper. Because I'll tell a little story on my last one about the cost of what it made to get films in those days. But Jaws, definitely a yes in anyone's collection.
Yeah, I would say everybody needs to own Jaws. Even Butch Jones, if he's watching, needs to own Jaws, right?
And one of the really cool
and Jaws the Revenge. I'm sorry.
One of the really cool things in that booklet that Dan has, it has the entire Quint's monologue that you can read. One of the best scenes in movie history for my money, and where you can read along with it. So that's really cool.
One of the joys of the Jaws disc, the joys of Jaws, is of course the score, which just sounds majestic.
Oh yeah.
I mentioned in the chat that I'm not picking Star Wars, even though I've got the box set, because Return of the Jedi is too soft an image. They let the show down there. But when the Empire soundtrack hits in, John Williams is conducting right in front of you, coming out the soundbar. It's quite spectacular, and that's the same with Jaws. So it's an audio format as much as anything else if you have the right setup, as Jamie said. And it's such a treat, it's so immersive. It's the closest to the cinema 4K, the full experience.
Just one little bit of trivia about Jaws. Maybe Chris knows this fellow. Did you ever meet Chris Samizik? Chris Samizak. If you ever went down to Chiller
Oh,
convention,
yeah.
he would have the big
we
Jaws
brought
head.
we brought the shark head twice to
Right,
Hudson
up
Horror.
there. His father worked on Jaws, I think it was. You know the story with him. His father worked on Jaws. He was I think he was a gun master or a prop master. And when they ended up leaving all of the props on Martha's Vineyard, and Chris would go up. I mean, they found the buoys, the floaters that were coming out of the water in some guy's backyard. He had a complete collection of Jaws memorabilia, including the head, which was cast.
Right, yeah.
From,
I brought the
from,
head
from the
twice
model
to
of Jaws.
Hudson Horror.
And it was down at Bill Diamond Studios down in Cornwall. And he used to have it on display there. I don't know over half of that collection, but he had everything from Ben's head that pops out to you name it. He found all this stuff on the island. They just left it there. And his father, of course, I think had guns and harpoons because he was the prop master for weaponry.
Yeah, Chris,
Kishka, right? Kishka, right?
Chris Kishka, that's it.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
met him through Steve Keeler.
Yeah, he's good friends with Keeler. Cool. Jamie.
Fuck you, Spielberg, you litterbug.
All right, I wanted to pick a black and white one too, because I don't think Caligari's black and white. It's more like tinted.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try to sell Pete Pardo on this one. This is a boxing movie / character study that plays out kind of like a mafia movie, and that is Raging Bull. Now,
you don't got to sell me, man.
Yeah, but you got the Blu-ray. You don't have the 4K, do you?
No.
That's what I want to sell you on.
Not yet.
Because the 4K on this, man, holy smokes. There are the boxing scenes just jump off the screen. And like you guys were talking about the smoke, and what movie were you guys talking about with the smoke and mist and stuff? The steam bath scene. It seems like the steam just fills up your room. And Kathy Moriarty, stunning. She glows in this 4K. Like everyone seems dark, and she seems like this glowing angel as she walks around them. And I put in the Blu-ray as well, because it comes with Blu-ray. Like, let me just compare night and day. The Blu-ray, I believe, has all the cool supplements on here. That's another thing I didn't know going into collecting. I didn't know that this was called supplements on Criterion, all the extras. I thought that was just what my mom takes by the mouthful. But yeah, all kinds of cool things. They got the interviews with the
you sold me, Jamie. You sold me.
who's the boxing guy in this damn movie?
Jake
LaMotta.
Yeah, they got him talking about the movie, how he hated it at first. He thought he asked his present wife, "Am I that bad?" And she's like, "Worse." So you get all kinds of cool interviews on here. So yeah, 4K, you need to get the 4K if you love that movie.
It's one of my favorite movies of all time. So yeah, I need that.
Right. You need the 4K. I was going to talk about, I wanted to do an animation movie. Craig picked Heavy Metal. And I wanted to talk about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, because this pops, man. This is the kind of movie you put in when people come over and like, let me see your setup. And you put this in, and the Atmos and the crystal clear animation. Animation looks better on 4K too. And the sound, I was watching this the other day, and they were calling Miles like from the other part of the house, and I had to pause it because I thought the wife was calling me upstairs. It's like, what does she want? Oh, that's TV. So, but it's great. But you know what? recently bought another movie and I watched it, and I don't know what you guys feel about Disney classics, the animation movies, but I got Beauty and the Beast on 4K, and holy shit, the whole prologue when they start telling the story and you see the stained glass window, and you're going through like the trees and stuff in the beginning. A half a second in, I was like, I'm all in. I'm all in. I've seen the movie a bazillion times, and like you guys said, it's like watching it for the first time again. And I saw this movie in the theater in '91 with my sister and my mom, and I'll never forget the first time I saw the chandelier scene when they're dancing and it goes through the chandelier. I was in the theater and I went, wow, because I think they used a little bit of computer graphics on
that scene CGI.
and merged it in. And I've never seen computer graphics merged in with regular animation before in my life. And I was like, holy shit, that chandelier looks cool, and the dancing scene and everything. And I never had that moment ever again. Put it in the VHS or whatever. Never had that moment again until I watched it last week, and I got that moment again. And that's another thing with these movies. You can relive theater moments again in your house. You could be wowed again in Star Wars. When the ship goes over your head, you can relive that moment in the beginning there. So, yeah, Beauty and the Beast, I would recommend that one highly. And that's my last two. I'm going fast because I don't want this show to be longer than Star Wars, and I started it right when we started. So it's a race to the Death Star blowing up.
There you go. I will say
Conversation's boring anyway.
that Spider-Man Spider-Verse film, if you
Yes.
do a Google search to look up like the highest recommended or most recommended and rated 4Ks to get, that one comes up almost every single time.
I do think they made Kingpin too big in that movie. He's
my problem with it is just the film itself is a fucking headache inducer for me. It just does not stop for more than a quarter set. It's everything everywhere all at once. Boom, boom,
That's
boom.
why I never
second
saw it.
one is like that. I would agree on the second one. I think the first one slows down a
Well, I
little
thought
bit.
the first one was bad enough, so I can't imagine how bad the second
Well,
one
the
was.
second one
baby.
is, I was sitting there going, this is too much.
It's like, can you just calm
I
down? It's
never
like
seen
May cause seizures.
ADHD, the movie, you know?
I was like, forget it. I can't sit through this.
I saw
This
the
is
first
like
one in the
watching
theater,
Blair
and I was
Witch
like,
Project.
yeah, it's the first one in the theater was okay, but I was like, I had no desire to see the second one. I was like, so Davey.
Okay. This just came the other day. I'll throw this out there just as it came, and I watched it the other night because we're talking about Scorsese there. Mean Streets from Second Sight, they're one of the companies that you just need to follow Second Sight, because when they put out an edition, look at that. I mean, that book for Mean Streets is 200 pages alone.
Wow.
And they do 200 pages for everything. And yeah, you get your postcards and things that just are tat, but then you do get the limited edition contents like the 200-page book and the bonus discs and whatnot. And it looks great. For a relatively low budget movie from '73, it looks absolutely stunning.
I love such a good
Mean Streets.
So good.
But I'm The Last Waltz. For another Scorsese that's on Criterion, just looks spectacular as well. But for another film from '73 that's low budget and looks phenomenal on 4K, The Wicker Man. And I'm kind of throwing this out there as a film that is representing my kind of film that is underrepresented on 4K, because we don't have any Hammer films on 4K. There's only one or two Amicus films on 4K, and that's the two Doctor Who films with Peter Cushing. So a lot of my kind of films, the British films of the 60s and 70s, aren't on 4K.
Yeah,
So The Wicker Man's one of the few that is. We're getting Witchfinder General in March from 88 Films, and they're doing my all-time favourite, Blood on Satan's Claw, at the same time. So those are two massive gaps that are going to be filled. But The Wicker Man got there first. And this is an interesting one where it's stitched together to make different cuts, because there's the theatrical cuts Then there's the director's cut, and then did they call it the final? Yeah, the final cut. And the best one for me is the director's cut rather than the final cut. A bit like Blade Runner, but you can see the difference where it jumps to places where they don't have a great print. So it almost lets you do a before and after, where you can see, okay, so that's what the quality is like, and here's what happens when there's a readily available print for them to do an upgrade on, and it just pops. Summer Isle, you're there, you can smell the island itself. It's like you're there. And then it'll go to one of the scenes that's added just for the director's cut, and the quality jumps right down. And you go, oh, so that's what I've actually been watching, relatively speaking. So this is what I've been kind of missing, because those exact cuts are on the Studio Canal version on Blu-ray, and the difference isn't that great. So the difference wasn't that apparent on Blu-ray, but on 4K, the difference is huge. So it just shows you how much further ahead they've been able to put the real filmic parts of this, the proper 35mm print parts of this, which is the majority of the film. So it looks absolutely stunning. It's got a breathtaking soundtrack as well. And it's just a great example of what you can do with vintage releases. And again, just like recommending Second Sight as a distributor, Studio Canal always put out top quality 4K discs. They license a lot to Shout Factory, so a lot of the things you might have from Shout Factory are actually Studio Canal restorations. But Wicker Man is top tier stuff.
Baby, show how thick that thing is. My God, it's. Jeez.
I mean, it gives you
Like a
what
dictionary.
we all needed, a pop-up of the Wicker Man itself.
Oh,
Yeah, with all sorts of the usual extras, greeting from Summerell postcard and blah blah blah. But it's a stunning disc. I mean, it's two UHDs, so two 4K discs alone, and two Blu-rays and a CD on top with a 200-page book. So
and Blu-rays are region 2 or all or 0?
yes, that's another thing. Studio Canal always lock their Blu-rays because they do license to Shout Factory.
Okay.
So they always lock. So be
Okay.
careful of that if you are important, because a lot of the special features might be locked.
What's the over-under on us selling people on this hobby? Number-wise, of people watching, over-under. I'm going to put it at 11.5.
What, you mean
I'm going
people that
low because it's a commitment.
You mean people that don't have 4K players that are now going to go out and buy 4K?
They're going to be
players?
seduced by the dark
Yeah.
side. Right? And they
Yeah,
move
11.5 is the over-under. You taking the under or the over?
Yeah, it's going to be a small percentage, and that's
Yeah.
fine. You know,
That's fine. But hey, remember, folks, if your teenage kids are leaving home and they've got a PlayStation 5, that's a 4K player.
Yeah.
If they've got an
I bet they're
Xbox
gonna be
One,
We
that's
get
a 4K
11.
player.
We did our job, I think.
So-
I'd be happy with 11.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
I'm
we
just
would-
thinking, when you want to watch your favorite movie and it's not on Netflix or HBO Max, you can go, fuck, I should have listened to those guys.
All right, I'll do my next two real quick here. Go back to the horror genre, go to the 70s. I think the Texas Chainsaw Massacre by who the hell put this out, Davey? This was Vortex, right?
Or yeah.
This is the best this film has ever looked. Chainsaw Massacre needs to look grimy and dirty, and it's got to have that grindhouse look to it. It's got to be grainy. It's got to be dingy, but it still has that quality, but it's never looked better. I would assume that this is probably what this looked like when you went to see it in the theaters back in the early 70s, and the sound is just amazing.
Usually the prints were pretty crummy.
Yeah, I mean, I've owned this in
It's
so
pretty
many different variants. This is the best it's ever looked. Best
It's one of the best examples, Pete, of people saying, "Oh, but it's so much film grain." It's one of the most intentionally full of film grain films ever made. Tobe Hooper did that as a completely stylistic choice to make it look as faded and as sandy as possible. So it's the best the film's ever going to look. It's intentionally that way. It's not.
I think that's an important point. Yeah, just
Yeah.
because it's 4K, an old film's not going to look like soap opera, crystal clear. That's
Yeah.
not what this is about.
Yeah, it's about
making it
whatever
look
the
like
intention is,
the
looking
film.
the best that can be.
And there's a gentle balance between keeping grain in the 4K and taking it out. Most time they bring it in to give it that film look, and so it's funny thing is that even the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is what they aspired to get to was Grindhouse without really being Grindhouse. And that's the effect that they now will put special effects to make it look like Grindhouse.
Yeah, for sure.
The second sight one, another 200-page book.
There you go.
I have that one. Is that 4K?
Yes.
I got a lot of shit in my box. I have my room. I have no idea it's 4K. Bought it. I said, oh,
So Watson to
Got
do.
those
man.
Twilights on 4K?
Here's the Blu-ray. Now it's like, no, what? When I
Twilight.
bought things, I go, did I just buy a Blu-ray thing? And it's like all of a sudden, I open the box and go, oh, thank God, it's 4K.
All right, next up, the Godfather trilogy.
Mhm.
Let me tell you something. Out of the 3 films, because I think you can get these all separately, The Godfather looks amazing. I watched it over the weekend. Breathtakingly good. The Godfather 2, not as much. Godfather 3, it's a newer film anyway. But man, the original Godfather looks spectacular. It's bright. It's the definition on, all the close-ups of all the actors, and it looks like it was filmed 10 years ago. I mean, just so good. The violent scenes look amazing. The scenes in Italy are just breathtakingly gorgeous. A must-have if you're a Godfather fan. You've never seen it like this before, ever. So highly recommended. All right, Craig, finish us up. Let's blast through these.
All right, last thing, just since you guys were mentioning Scorsese movies, I recommend Casino with just with any parts where they're walking into the bright lights and the glitz of the casinos. It just really pops in the color. The scenes where Sharon Stone is throwing craps. I mean, you feel like you're standing there next to her, hoping that she's not stealing your chips like she does in that movie, but looks spectacular, along with the great soundtrack. But my shirt gives away maybe my last pick, Patrick fucking Swayze and Roadhouse. I love this movie, and it looks wonderful on 4K. This actually comes with 2 other Blu-rays with a host of bonus features, which I was watching recently. Just some behind the scene or new interviews with some of the side actors, like the big burly bouncer that works at the Double Deuce with Swayze, and about how he went and got the part. There's a whole segment called Henchman Number 2, which is the one of the bad guys who actually he had the knife that kills poor Sam Elliott in the movie. There's like a 20 minutes devoted to this guy telling his story of how he made the movie, but it looks wonderful in 4K. I'm glad that this is one from the Vinegar Syndrome, so it wasn't one of the more normal movies that you might find.
You wouldn't get that in a studio desk, a 20-minute interview with the side actor.
It's well worth it if you just want to, good fun popcorn movie, or as Chris had said before, movies for guys who like movies. I recommend Roadhouse, and it's a wonderful addition to your collection.
The trailer for the remake came out today.
Yeah,
remake. Oh my God. Vinegar Syndrome actually has a deal with MGM. That's why when he first put out Roadhouse, I'm going, how'd you get this? All of a sudden they apparently have a distribution deal with MGM, so they plan on putting out other MGM films and doing it upright. Sure, studio would not put that packaging together. I bought that because I love that film. Greatest line in film history: "Prepare to die." No. He fights the guy at the end.
All right, Chris.
I don't love Roadhouse.
Pete, you and I and Dan did a whole video on this. Dan mentioned it earlier. It is my single most purchased film. I think I bought 12 or 13 different copies of this. And yeah, for me, this is a dream release. This is the second sight limited edition version of Dawn of the Dead. Craig's got it.
A smaller one, I think.
Yeah. Craig has the regular edition, and Davy's got the limited one.
Yeah.
This has all 3 cuts of
We all on
Dawn
this
of the
one,
Dead.
right?
Theatrical cut, the Romero director's cut, and the Dario Argento European cut. And those are the 3 cuts. There's composite ones even on YouTube, but those are the 3 versions. But they all look and sound fantastic. There's a ton of extras. There's a giant book on this version. There's 2 CDs.
2 giant books.
Oh, there are 2 books. Yeah,
You get the novelization from George Romero, and you get the making of, and they're both 200-page books.
yeah, it's amazing. So yeah, that's my final pick.
The book is worthy of a coffee table, hard copy.
Yeah, I would
The
buy
book's
on
worth
its own.
$50 itself. If it full
Yeah,
size.
I mean the books are worth that, and then you get the complete score, the Goblin score, and you get the complete soundtrack of the library music
Yeah, the incidental stuff. So,
with the gonk and stuff. So you get absolutely everything that you could
It's
possibly
the
want.
film that got me into 4K. When I said it was coming out in 4K, it's like it's a shame that really haven't done it justice in its own country. Everything has to go to Europe to be given justice as far as the films are concerned.
It's all the Rubinstein rights. I mean, Martin's out here on 4K again from Second Sight, and that's not out in America even on Blu-ray. So kind of nuts.
Roseville Mall, Pittsburgh, PA.
That's right. That's right. Dan, your final pick.
Well, once again, I think that this box set was inspired by the love and it might have been in the works anyhow, but the love and concern that was put into the Dawn of the Dead box set. But to give you a little background on it, Bruce Lee, had in a 2.5 year really career on the international basis, put more impact in the movie business than some actors did for 50 years in the business. And he kicked off the Kung Fu craze. I remember him first from the Green Hornet. I remember going to see his films in the theaters when they were there, and it was an element of excitement to the point where like no one could believe he was dead. It must have been a rumor. He must have made his own death up, and there were books and exploitation. But to give you like, I've always been a Bruce Lee fan. I have his autograph. I have a number of one sheets, as so forth. When I was much younger and skinnier, I actually had a yellow tracksuit and would train. So there you go. I'm just like a loser. I get it. But anyhow, going back, it eventually came out in VHS, and a big clamshell box under the Dragon. And this is what you would get back in like the 80s, which was VHS. And when this came out, okay, you said, it ain't going to get any better than this. Okay. 4 movies. It's Bruce. It's a slip cover before slip covers became, trendy. Okay. It was, this
before
is
Pete started throwing them out.
With that,
Yeah.
I don't do that anymore, Chris.
it went from it's never going to get any better than this. So the Golden Harvest stuff disappears. Then they come out with Enter the Dragon, which came out, okay, which was a 2-disc set that came out in 2003, included some documentaries like, oh my God, this is fantastic. Opened up, 2 discs, it has the dragon emblem on it. It's not going to get any better than this. Cut to a couple years later, they decided to put the Golden Harvest out again in another box set, including the Game of Death 2. Okay. Now, mind you, also in that Enter the Dragon box, they also put in, that wasn't in that one. They had come out with a documentary called The Warrior's Journey, in which they reconstructed the Game of Death and made a 35-minute film with all the cut footage they had. Not going to get any better than this. Never. No. Our friends at Criterion come up. Okay. I didn't even got a chance to watch this because I got the other one. So I'm still figuring out what's on this. But once again, it's a Criterion. How bad can it be? It's not going to be bad. It's not going to get any better than this. Criterion's got it by the balls. Well, no. Sorry. Criterion's a great box. I probably will never watch it at this point in time. And I think thanks due in part to the success or the love that was given, I said, to Dawn of the Dead, that Arrow decided in a time where there can be kind of shaky and flaky at times, okay, they pulled the stops out with the Bruce Lee box set. Okay? I'm just going to show you every disc and what comes in here. Yes, it has the things like the posters that you'll never frame. It's got lobby cards that you will never frame. Okay, you got a box that sits in there. You have the thing when you sell it to somebody, it's like the lobby card is dinged. You're gonna watch a movie. You want to hang something else, download something, print it, and put it on your wall. You're here to watch the movies. But this is what you get. Starters, you get a book about Bruce Lee. I mean, it is like, you know, this is like the telephone book in Munchkin Land. I mean, it's huge, it's thick, it's tiny, but it's got everything in there. Once again, this will be a $75 to $100 book out there. Okay. It comes with a copy of The Big Boss. It comes out with The Big Boss, the Mandarin cut. The only way to get these films years ago in Mandarin, the original language, you had to download bootlegs. You had to find bootleg copies out of Japan or China, and they were hard to come by if you were a Bruce Lee fan.
The Mandarin cut of that was never even bootlegged.
Yeah, I know, but you get anything you get the original language in letterbox on boots. Now you get Fist of Fury. That comes out. Each of these have oodles of extras. I can't even get into the extras. There's so many. Okay. 3, Way of the Dragon, which was also put out, I think, as The Return of the Dragon, first came out. It takes place, the famous fight in the Coliseum with Chuck Norris. Once again, oodles of extras. I mean, that's just for this film. Interviews, background. Now, but the real coup de grace in this set is how much love they give to the Game of Death. Okay, number 1, you get the Game of Death, the one that was released with Dean Jagger and Colleen Camp and a number of the ones people saw in the theaters. You get the Game of Death 2, which was they use extra footage, like fighting in a field. They kind of work a story around it. Once again, there's only a small amount of footage of Bruce in this film. Once again, the extras alone on this one. Then you have a couple of alternate versions of Game of Death that were released over. I mean, I think there's at least 2 versions on this that I'd never heard of or never seen. Once again, extras on the bottom are as large, they're larger than the credits on the top. Finally, you get the final Game of Death. What is the final Game of Death? The final Game of Death is back in 1994, when was it Golden Harvest? Was it Shaw or was it Golden Harvest?
Golden Harvest.
Golden Harvest, they sold off the assets of Golden Harvest, and they found 9 of 11 reels of outtakes and dailies from Game of Death, which is primarily his fighting sequences. Okay. A couple of years later, they found the remaining 2, which included an extra fight scene that was not in the original films. So they took the idea of reconstructing it. Not only do they reconstruct the film, and they make about a 40-minute cut of Game of Death, which is all the footage they could find, all restored, sound dubbed, whatever it may be, looks spectacular as far as what they did to restore it. But on top of that, you also get a 4.5-hour video essay explaining the story of the Game of Death and how he made it, what he went through, this and that, and it includes all 11 reels of outtake footage. You can watch every stitch of footage that was made by Bruce Lee on this film. And then finally, you get Bruce Lee, the man, the legend, and the myth. Okay, this was originally a documentary that was put out in China originally, and it was released. There's 2 versions of this on it, including other extras.
Yes, no, so you get a documentary about the making of a documentary.
Right, but it's got every stitch in there you could think about it. Now, that's not even the point. The point of this whole thing is that every one of these films, like I said, when I saw them years ago in the theaters, they were a little bit faded, they were dubbed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. These films, they've been restored. Every one of them has been restored as far as the main title ones. And you could see in the original one, in The Big Boss, when they are, it was The Big Boss in the ice, I get the mixed up sometimes, in the ice factory in Thailand, the first Fist of Fury. Yeah. Boom. In the ice factory, you can see the chips of ice coming off. I mean, it's crystal clear. You can see the folds in people's clothing. I mean, the color, they corrected every color possibly. It's not, but once again, with the filming of the time, there are moments where there are zoom shots from a distance. It's a little blurry as it goes in, but for the most part, it's not going to get any better than this. Now, they do include in the box, they include Enter the Dragon. Now, the Enter the Dragon in reality is pretty much that red box I showed you earlier with the 2-disc set, which eventually was re-released as the 40th anniversary edition on Blu-ray. Okay. Now, once again, talking about 4K, I mean, it's a great looking Blu-ray, et cetera, but it's in there. It's obvious they licensed it from Warner Bros. To put in there. It would be kind of like, you know, they had to license Star Wars, the first film, to put it in a box because Fox owned it and not Lucas. But they do say it's okay, it's good, but it is once again, the 4Ks can play anywhere. The Blu-rays are region 2. So you do need either a 4K player that will be multi-system, or you need a 4K player and separate. But I'll tell you, for the bang for your buck, if you're a film buff, you're talking about history on the wall, you are not going to get a more spectacular set than this. Which prompted me to go out just for shits and grins, and I went out and I did buy, to add into it, I did buy, out of curiosity's sake, I did buy the 4K restoration. There's a couple things in it that are good. It's a very bare bones disc. I think they did bare bones with it because they own the rights. They're cashing in on it. But on the other side of the coin, after Criterion and after Arrow, Warner's not going to be able to hold a candle to it. What I saw about this film that I did like, the colors did pop in the beginning. One of the more interesting aspects of the 4K is in the beginning titles, and you see Enter the Dragon, John Saxon, Bruce Lee, and Enter the Dragon. I never realized that the letters, they're outlined in black, they are red. It's like looking through red cellophane. You can see the buildings behind the titles. Now, just a step back real quick before I end. That box set that I showed you, this one right here, okay? I have actually a video book from 1989 if you bought films at home, like home or mail order and so forth. The box set that I showed you from Arrow, I think I paid on a pre-order $165 for it, US, before it was a pre-order. In 1989, this box set that gave you pan and scan, that gave you dubbed films, okay? Quality was not that great, as good as could be at that time. This cost you retail to buy the box set at the bargain price of $190. So when people sit and complain about they charge too much for these things, this is what you got for $190. This other thing that I showed you is what you got now. It's on the secondary market, but they've done a spectacular job with it. They are available as separate discs if you just want to get the films and you don't want to go the whole purge. I don't know if the extras on the standalones are region 2. I'm not sure. But if you want to get the films, they are definitely worthwhile getting in the 4K by the film. So
they're only available now as separate discs. The box set's sold out.
Yeah,
I know. And the secondary market, people are asking $400 or $500 for this
Especially thing. The yellow one that you and I have got. That one went. That didn't even make it to release date. It sold out on pre-order. Right.
And I think the red one is a box set that's sold out too, I believe. The red box is just the standalone Golden Harvest films. Enter the Dragon's not in there. I don't know what else is missing.
And again, people should be careful because there's a Blu-ray version of the red box. So just because it looks like that doesn't mean you're getting the 4K one. So double check if you do see the red box that is the 4K versions.
But it was probably one of the best sets I've put together. And I think it's raised the bar for everybody. Cool. That's it.
Jamie.
All right, my next one's going to be a little controversial.
Uh-oh.
It's a movie co-produced and co-written by James Cameron,
by
Rodriguez. It's my new slick looking category. It's a newer movie, and that is Alita: Battle Angel. It's maybe not everyone's cup of tea. It's one of those movies where you go on Rotten Tomatoes and it's 62% critics like it, 92% audience likes it. So it's kind of one of those things. Some people might say it's too video game looking. I think it's just slick looking. It's bright and slick, but at the same time, kind of dark colors and dark in tone at times. It's eye candy though. You're not going to get the grain film grain on here. It's just going to pop off your screen, and it's not just eye candy. I would say it's eye cotton candy, where it's not nutritious for you, but it's fun and it's pretty to look at. So, and another thing, it's cheap. It's always cheap. I got this one for like $6.99 on sale. I think Amazon has it for like $13 or something. And just to backtrack on the streaming thing real quick, since I did go out of my way to do it, let me mention Beauty and the Beast. I did watch it on Disney Plus, a few scenes, and compared it to the 4K. No comparison. That's it, folks. Oh,
So
I will say
I've been
that
interested
one,
in checking out that film that you just showed.
Alita,
Yeah.
Battle Angel.
Yeah, I heard it's action packed, right? I mean, for the most part.
Yeah. She's battling robots and all kinds of things, and not everything is great. I have Heat. It's pretty dark. If you have I hear if you have like an average TV, it might be even too dark to watch. You can get the Blu-ray for literally $5 on Amazon, so you might want to go that route. If you have an OLED, I hear it's not as bad, and I watched it on my OLED, and I didn't have a problem with it, but I hear bad things.
A great sounding disc though again, and Heat's a film that does have wonderful sound design with the bullets and whatnot. It sounds phenomenal.
Cool. All right, Davey.
Yeah, I mean, toss it out there while Jamie brought up James Cameron. One to definitely avoid for people is Terminator 2, because that disc famously, it's probably if you Google worst 4Ks, I'd imagine it's the one that comes up most often, because they use the same master as the 3D version. So the version that was used for the 4K is the same one that was used for the 3D. When that's completely two different ballparks.
Yeah, right.
So Arnold Schwarzenegger in it looks like a wax model. There's no wrinkles on anybody's face. There's no frowning lines. There's no crow's feet at the side of anybody's eyes. It is like a computer game. It looks awful. A bit like if anyone ever owned the old disc of Predator on Blu-ray, the first one that came out for years. It looked horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. For some reason, Schwarzenegger seems to get these horrendous discs for a while. But so yeah, even James Cameron can suffer. But certain filmmakers do not suffer on 4K. The films have been done a great justice. And I'm going to throw these in as a pair, actually, because the filmmakers are quite similar, but certainly the reasons to get their discs are very similar. So from the Kubrick box set, 2001: A Space Odyssey and The Shining, which are both included here. And I'm going to pair it with Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight. You could pick any number of Christopher Nolan films, even Oppenheimer, which even if Jamie doesn't love the film, it's a technical marvel. It looks and sounds absolutely breathtaking. It's stunning.
I'll give it that.
It's breathtaking. I mean, I love the film. But Christopher Nolan and Stanley Kubrick both made very intentional films where they were not just shooting and hoping that everything turned out for the best. There was a very intentional end game with what they were doing. With The Shining, for example, there's a very intentional coldness and detachedness that Kubrick wanted to get from the camera. And that's something that 4K allows you to get that depth, letting you see that it's not just blacks, but there's different levels, that grading that it lets you see deeper into the background, where it starts to get darker as it goes further back. And it just gives more depth to absolutely everything. It's almost like seeing more 3D, but without any gimmicky glasses to do it with. Whereas 2001: A Space Odyssey looks stunning, obviously. It always has done on home media, but it looks stunning as on 4K. And again, it sounds remarkable because it's got that classical music soundtrack. So all those tracks just absolutely sound like you're at the last night at the proms at the Royal Albert Hall or something, and you're listening to the orchestra live. It's just phenomenal stuff for your ears, while you're getting a film that's a trip in every sense of the words, that's just never looked better. That monolith just sits there like a vacuum, just in the middle of the screen, and everything around it just pops with color. The scenes of Hal taking over, the scenes of Dave and the journey to where he goes to the end, just breathtaking. And just like on the Dark Knight trilogy, Nolan's gone for a very cold aesthetic. He's trying to make Batman work as a Michael Mann movie more than a superhero movie. He's not trying to do Christopher Reeve Superman. He's trying to do Michael Mann's Heat, funnily enough, something like that. He's trying to do it much more as a crime film. So it has that gritty aesthetic, but in a more Michael Mann slick way, very digital way, very modern sensibility with blue hues, which again did take over far too much in the 2000s, and a lot of discs started to come out with color timing corrections that should never be turned blue. Michael Mann did it to his old films, went back and added a blue tint onto them. But Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight films in particular, but I'd certainly say Oppenheimer. I didn't like Tenet at all. I thought that was just a snooze fest and possibly pretentious, but even that looked and sounded breathtaking on 4K. The first time I saw it was on 4K. No, I didn't like the film at all, but I loved the experience of hating it, if that makes any sense whatsoever. But yeah, so Chris Nolan, Stanley Kubrick, two master filmmakers, and some of the greatest achievements on 4K show exactly why they are such achievements in the first place. So 2001: A Space Odyssey, and pick your choice with Nolan, but The Dark Knight, I'd say, is probably my favorite Nolan film. So there you go.
One of the astronauts is named that Hal kills in the before while he's sleeping is named Kaminski.
Oh,
Yeah.
there you
Speaking of
Dude,
astronauts, they're
Craig Kaminski.
just about to blow up the Death Star, so I'm just pointing that out.
Yeah, I know. I know.
go. Yeah,
Well, I'll take us out before we do.
Use the force, Pete. Use the
All right.
force.
Use that force, Pete. Get us out of here.
Apocalypse Now.
Let's
Final
blow this thing and go home.
Yeah. This, again, I have this thing for war films in 4K. Apocalypse Now has never looked better. You've got the theatrical cut, you got the redux, you got all the different versions are on here, all the extras are here. And man, in 4K, when they're going down the Jolong River, whatever the hell it's called, through Cambodia, the scenery looks amazing. Vietnam has never looked better. And man, the whole second half of the film, when it's like nighttime and there's all sorts of weirdness going on and rockets flying all over the place and they got mud all over them and Martin Sheen comes out of the water. It just looks spectacular. You got, who, Colonel Kurtz in the darkness, and Brando looks amazing. Yeah, this is just great. Absolutely mandatory. Apocalypse Now Redux.
And it's like $15 and you get like 3 or 4 discs in that thing.
Where are you?
Yeah, it's a
Where are you
super
seeing it for
cheap set.
$15? I see. It's hard.
It's hard to find now because I was trying.
Oh, is it? When
Oh,
it
it's-
first
it's
came out, it was
Yeah,
like
it's-
extra cheap.
Is dirt cheap over here? Yeah,
It is
They
available.
made
It's
fucking-
available from Europe. Yeah, and it's and I'm assuming it's all well. It doesn't matter. Well, yeah, that's available. Yeah, it's going for like up to $100 here in the States.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've
That-
had it on my
that's
shelf
good.
for years. I bought it and for super cheap. I think I
Yeah.
paid like $12. And
Yeah.
every time I go to grab it, I'm like, it's long. I don't know which version to watch. I'm like, I'll get to it later.
You should
No,
watch
yeah.
it because it looks
And it's
amazing.
out
Yeah,
of
I gotta
print,
get
too.
Although
So
to
that-
kind of take us back to roughly where we started, some films obviously just can't get on any better versions. You don't get them in 4K. I last night, funnily enough, watched another version of the same story, Heart of Darkness, with Tim Roth and John Malkovich, directed by Nicholas Roeg, and it's only on DVD.
Yep. that's
So
great.
it might be great on 4K, but I'm never going to know because it's only on DVD. So as much as we're saying how great the formats are, the films are the main thing, of course. So if your favorite films are only on DVD or Blu-ray, we're not looking down on them. We still get those too. This is just a celebration of one specific format. We're not saying we don't like DVDs. We still love DVDs and
Wait.
Blu-rays.
And I imagine Apocalypse Now in 4K, it has to be spectacular because that was one of the ones that I had on DVD. When you put in the menu, that it would have the helicopter propeller in surround sound. It would go around
Yeah, that's right.
around the whole room. So I'd imagine in 4K it's even more
It's
so.
glorious. It's
It's a
glorious.
Studio Canal disc again. They're just stunning with their restorations.
Yeah.
But that's what you have to be careful. A lot of stuff does go out of print rather quickly in 4K.
Yes. Gotta
And especially, and the thing is, the secondary market. I mean, like I said, I like the films. It's great to get certain things, but the limited editions or the slip sleeves, and then these go, and then people just get it's like war profiteers. It's like, you want to buy us $300, $400, $500. It's like, it's a shame. I mean, they should do the thing they said on the Seinfeld one. A limited edition should be limited to how many we could sell.
And real quick before we go, one that, and Chris will back me up on this, that maybe you want to avoid is Vinegar Syndrome's Beastmaster.
Yeah.
Looks great. But, I mean, the packaging looks great and everything, but man, the film doesn't look that good in 4K.
No.
It's very inconsistent through the whole movie. It change, like the quality changes as you go through. It's just
There's a reason why that's been on sale so many times for Vinegar Syndrome.
yeah.
The Abyss is supposed to come out, which has been elusive on Blu-ray. I'm wondering if Cameron is overseeing the production.
He
been working
has,
on
yeah.
that for years.
That and Aliens he has personally overseen. So
Yeah, because that's a film that he never let out of his hands. As
Yeah,
far as
this has been long overdue. Yeah. So cool. So for everybody watching, hopefully you've gotten some great recommendations. If you do want to go take that plunge into 4K, or if maybe you've already have, but you're just a little slow in getting some new stuff, you've got a lot to choose from here today. And there's plenty of others we haven't mentioned, but these are some of the ones that we really recommend. So thanks for watching, everybody. This is on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube all together, all the damn time. For Chris Laszlo, Craig Kaminski, Jamie Laszlo, Dan Brown, and Davy Gallagher, I am Pete Pardo. Thanks for hanging in with us here tonight, and we'll see you next time in 2 weeks here on the Monsters Den. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Later.
cheerio.